Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to the Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here is a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out.
All right, welcome to Cornhusker Corner, where there's no place like
this podcast.
As always, we're your host, Blake, and my brother,
Brooks.
Took a little holiday hiatus, lots of travel, and there's no real Husker football happening right now. But we're glad to be back. Lots of stuff to talk about today. We're going to go over some college football news in general, some Husker news that we didn't get to last time, stuff that's happened since, like signing day, and then we're going to do something real fun at the end and go over some of our some good, mostly terrible predictions that we made at the beginning of the season. So lots of fun.
Plus some fun little rumors and gossip about certain teams that will extend into some off-season stuff, especially with the clip that just broke on Twitter about an hour ago. I will love to talk about that. But as always, if you're here with us, we love that you're here. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at CHusker Corner. We're very active on there. We enjoy being on the Twitter. And on Instagram, the page is called Cornhusker Corner. And as always, remember to subscribe and like, comment on the video, share it with your friends. If you don't like it, ream us out in the comment section. We don't care. We just like engagement, and engagement makes it more fun for us. We're not in this for the money. We're not in this for anything but having fun. And we have fun just talking, you and me. But it would be a lot more fun if there was a lot of people giving us some input and some topics that they would like us to discuss. So leave us a comment.
Real people, not bots.
Elon
got rid of all those anyways. So
we don't even have bot comments. Bots don't even. Bots are like, if we comment on their stuff, we're not even going to get any traction. So also shout out to Go Big Redcast. They shouted us out today. We appreciate them for doing that. They're a Husker podcast. They seem like good guys, and I've been watching them for the past year or so. And they shouted us out on Twitter today, so thank you for that. Go Big Redcast.
That's one thing I like about this community too. Is just like the legendary High School Musical song, we're all in this together. So we like it too. We like the shout outs, and when we won't forget people when we make it big. So.
Right. Well, there's also this thing that, I mean, not a whole lot of people talk about this, but there's this thing that exists right now within Husker Nation where it's like, if you're active in Husker Nation on social media and stuff right now, man, like everyone knows you're real because we're bad. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're commenting on this team right now, and we do, on a fairly regular basis on this podcast, we're in it for the long haul, baby. We're in it for the long haul. So, So with that being said, we're almost to the end of the year, man. Oh my gosh. It's gone quickly. So what do you want to hit
crazy.
On first? What do you want to hit on first?
So I think just keeping it on topic on Husker football for at least the beginning right here. Let's talk about signing day. Because there were some, not a lot of surprises, but there were some. I think my biggest takeaway was Malachi choosing to stay with Nebraska, not tempted by Coach Prime over there in Colorado. And that was really good. I mean, so I was down in Houston, for Christmas and everything. So we kind of watched that live. And, but, I was talking to my parents, our parents, while it was happening. You were back in your room because you're like, I need no distractions. Yes. And then we both saw it at the same time. I looked up, you ran out. You were just like, yes.
I just gave you the big thumbs up.
Yeah. So it was, so that was good. That was good. And that's really big too, for Rhule just in general, because the biggest in-state recruit, one of the best recruits in the country, not even just in the state of Nebraska, but that's huge. So
huge. Yeah. No, it is. And everyone made a big deal about him decommitting and then foregoing his visit to Michigan to go visit Colorado and Coach Prime.
Yep.
It's Coach Prime. You make a big deal out of that. And essentially, that's kind of my whole take on the situation is that's kind of why he did it, because it's Coach Prime. Like, if you're trying to build your brand, and in this era of college football, that's what everyone's trying to do. If you're trying to build your brand, you almost can't afford to miss the opportunity to at least associate with Prime for a little bit.
Yeah.
So
And,
I think that was his mindset, and I think he probably even told Matt Rhule that whenever he said, because they had a conversation when he was going to decommit.
Yeah, and also, like, if you read, like, when he said he was, like, reopening, like, it was not that I don't want to be at Nebraska. It was there's a change in guard. I've met them, but I want to see if there is somebody that I connect with more now that the coaching carousel happened. And I don't fault any player for doing that. Like, they committed to another coaching staff and whatever. It's sad to lose some of these guys. But in the transfer portal age, we've talked about that before. Even these incoming freshmen, just because we get them signed and enrolled on campus as true freshmen, doesn't mean that they're going to be here, contribute. I think one of the people that we lost, Omarion Miller.
Yeah.
That was I remember watching his tape, and I was really excited for him as well. He ended up going to where did he go?
He ended up committing to Colorado.
That's right. He went to Colorado. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. But but well, all in all, I don't know. What are your thoughts about, like, just in general on the signing day?
I mean, here's the thing, man. Malachi, if we're still on the topic of Malachi is going to make an instant impact. He really is. I mean, the guy just has flat out speed and size and potential, and I mean it really is like he's the type of athlete that is going to come in, and at the very least he'll play his 4 games before they redshirt him. At the very least, they're going to find ways to get him out on the field in some form or fashion this year. So it's a big commitment, and I'm glad to talk about it now. I feel comfortable talking about it now on this podcast when it comes to Malachi, because not only is he committed, he's signed. And so, I mean, that was a surprise of the signing day, because the thought on Malachi was that he was not going to sign this early in the early signing day, but he ended up making the announcement early that morning. Announcement coming, and I will sign today. And sort of as soon as he said that, I was like, he's coming to Nebraska. I don't think he would have signed that like that if he was just going to flip and go to some, maybe he would have, but I just had the feeling as soon as he made that announcement that he was going to go to Nebraska. So we're excited for Malachi. One of the things that was also exciting about this signing class was he got offensive line and defensive line talent from both the high school ranks and the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Of note to me, you get Mason Goldman, offensive tackle from Gretna. He needs to put on weight. He's 260, but he's 6'6". He moves well. He's those linemen that
6'6",
we need.
260.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, he's pretty thin then.
Yes, he's pretty thin. He needs to put on weight, but he moves well. That is the most important thing at that position. Princewell Umanlayan. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's a 4-star edge rusher out of Texas. And if you remember,
his brother played with Rhule, right?
I believe so. It was something like that. I know is
because Rhule was talking about it.
Yeah, Rhule recruited his brother. I believe when he was at Baylor.
Yeah.
And his mom, Princewell's mom, has an Nigerian food restaurant in Austin. And back in the day when Rhule was at Baylor, he went to that restaurant and it got the older brother to commit.
Yeah.
And then this last time he went there and posted the picture of the food and with no context or anything, because he knew Princewell would know.
Yeah.
And it got him to commit. So that's a good commitment out of Texas. And then also in the transfer portal, if we're talking on the line, we got 300-pound defensive lineman, former 4-star Elijah Judy out of A&M. And he was part of that, whatever you call it, number one recruiting class of all time. Yeah, whatever.
Jimbos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. You just need bodies in there. You never know really who's going to emerge as a player. You just need like feasible potential.
Yeah.
In that
Outside
position.
of like, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty on names. We have a whole off season to really dig deep into these guys.
Right.
In terms of rankings, I remember when Scott left, we were around, left makes it seem like he went on his own, fluency there. But
he chose to leave.
He chose to leave.
Yeah.
But whenever he got fired, we got some decommits, but not a lot. And then I think the last time I checked, it was around 45 or 50. And what were we at the tail end of that day? And now,
22, 21, 22.
It is top 25 now.
Oh, you mean in the rankings? I thought you meant the amount of kids. No, yeah, it's 26, 20. Like the highest ranking I ever saw, it was 26. But expect the commitment of 4-star Cam Linhart out of IMG Academy. He'll commit on the 3rd for the Under Armour All-American game. So that'll bump our rating. And then we'll get another commitment from a defensive back that same day, high 3-star defensive back. Yeah. So that'll help our rating as well, just with numbers wise. So we'll be in the top 25 when it's all said and done.
And one thing that and it's great for your first year, just starting off on good. And if you remember correctly, Scott had a really good first year too. Lots of kids wanted to play for him. He was the hot commodity and all that. But it's really good to get the ball rolling, especially for future, getting those young guys in. But I think one of the best things about that ranking is the fact that we're number 1 in the Big Ten West. We have the best recruiting class in the Big Ten West. And if you look at the Big Ten West teams, we should. And that is something that we should. I mean, just in terms of like blue blood, what Nebraska carries with it, we should definitely be there. The teams that are ahead of us are, I believe, Michigan State, just in terms of the Big Ten, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, probably. But that's really not bad class to be behind, except for Michigan State, which I think we might overcome them, because their guy's a good recruiter too.
We'll see. Good. Well, I mean, we're talking about straight up 2023 recruiting rankings at this point, but I mean, don't forget now we have the number 19 ranked transfer portal class at this point as well, and expect more to come because there's more needs. But we've already picked up Ben Scott, transfer from Arizona. That's a big one. Offensive lineman. He's going to play center for us. Chief Borders, 4-star out of Florida. From Florida. I mean, like he's picking up dudes in the transfer portal too, so he hasn't forgotten about that aspect of the game, which I appreciate. So it's all positive stuff coming from signing day and Rhule, man. Yeah,
and speaking of, the one thing I did want to touch on for transfers, Jeff Sims, quarterback for Georgia Tech, transfers to Nebraska. So that already pretty full quarterback room. You have to know that there's not going to be some guys there. If I had to pick a guy for sure that I know is not going to be there, it's Chubba Purdy.
Yeah, I think we can agree on that. Yeah, 100%.
I just don't think he's going to be there. He was Whipple's guy, and Whipple's not there anymore. And I think there's way too much talent for him to be able to compete in that room.
Yeah, and he keeps coming back, but this offense that Marcus Satterfield runs, and from what I understand, it's very multiple. They run RPOs, they run lots of stuff, QB run stuff. Logan is a dog in this fight as well, in my opinion. Now here's the situation. Casey and Logan both are undergoing shoulder surgery, have underwent shoulder surgery on their throwing shoulder, each of them. So it's going to be, I don't think either of them are going to participate in spring football, at least fully. And so Jeff Sims essentially is going to be the quarterback through spring football, essentially at this
And
point.
Harburg and Torres and all those guys are going to get all those spring reps, just all of them.
100%. But what I'm saying is they brought Jeff Sims in to compete for QB1. That's what they brought him in. They brought him in to 100%. He started for 3 years at a Power 5 college. That's how it works. And the thing about Jeff Sims is like, and matter of fact, you know what? Matt Rhule summed it up perfectly in his press conference for the signing day. Okay. And I have a quick quote here. Where is it at? Pennsylvania. QB Jeff Sims. Here we go.
Hey, Matt, you guys signed Jeff Sims, no high school quarterbacks. What can you tell us about Sims and why you chose to bring him in as a transfer?
Yeah, so Jeff Collins was the head coach at Georgia Tech. Jeff and I worked together at Albright College, then at Western Carolina years ago. Jeff replaced me as the head coach at Temple. So I first went to Baylor. I went and visited them, watched them practice. I go to the NFL. I have every Saturday off to watch games. I've watched a ton of Georgia Tech games. And I fell in love with Jeff, just as a player early on. He's dynamic, he's athletic, he's smart, he's big, he's got accuracy, he can throw from the pocket. So when he became available, when he went into the transfer portal, I was already sold on him. And I even had, I even had people in the NFL say, "Hey, you need to go get this guy." I mean, everyone recognizes he's an NFL talent. And you get to know him. His personality is elite. I mean, he's a really good person about the right things. His former coaches, they loved him, and so it was easy if it worked out. And we're grateful that he chose to come here.
Hey, Matt.
All good stuff. Again, he's a very good talker. I haven't and I can't really say anything to the contrary. I haven't watched him play. I'll probably in the off season when I'm starved for football content, I'll probably go back and watch some, especially this past year, some of those games. But I mean, listen, you can have a lot of transfer players from a school that hasn't had a lot of success, and they just need a change of scenery. Look at Adrian Martinez. He got hurt, but they were rolling even before he got hurt. So it's not like he got hurt and then they started doing well. He's had a lot of success after transferring. So that sometimes change of scenery just works, and you have the talent, and you just need a change of scenery. So right. I'm open to it. I'm not married to Casey. Right. I like his grit, but
Yeah, no, Casey has won the fan base over. I mean, if I have my finger on the pulse at all, it seems like Casey has at least won the respect of the fan base. No doubt about it. The interesting thing about this situation is Jeff Sims enters the portal, then he commits to Nebraska, and then 2 days later, Charles Thompson, Casey's father, is on the radio. I mean, basically making the announcement for his son that Casey's coming back, and and he's expecting that the job is his when he gets back. Is basically the gist of what Charles said. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. It's just people. What's funny looking back at it? It just makes me laugh. The hype that people tried to build with the Casey versus Chuba quarterback battle. It just is it makes me cringe laugh a little bit. But now looking at this battle, there's a legitimate, they're a little bit more interesting, a little bit more legit, especially when you incorporate the change in scheme and how it would fit each quarterback skill set. If we're talking about if Whip's still here, Casey's going to win the job. He fits that offense better, but it's Satterfield, so it'll wait and see. So yeah.
All right. So let's get into some other college football news before we hop into our year in review. Let's see. Some of these topics that we have. Let's go with this. I thought this was really interesting. So full transparency, I didn't watch this game, and I was half asleep when you texted me that Wisconsin head coach Luke Fickell was coaching in the bowl game.
But so was
Jim Leonard.
Yes, it was a weird situation, man. Very weird.
talk about putting a guy in a really awkward situation right off the bat.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. The way I viewed it was I don't think anybody chose to be in that situation except for Luke Fickell. I think he was there doing that because he wanted to be there doing that, and he wanted to get incorporated into the culture of the team quick. And the way he probably looked at it was, well, Jim's definitely not staying, so if he thinks it's awkward, that's tough. He's going to be gone. So I'm sorry he thinks it's awkward, but I want to participate in this.
Yeah, but
so that's probably the mindset he took, to be honest.
How much of that? I mean, your players, like from an outside perspective, that's weird. That's kind
Very
of like
weird.
a power move. Lots of guys show a lot of like respect to like the guys that like were there, and that just reeks of disrespect. Like, just wait.
Oh yeah.
Like,
agreed.
Those players
Agreed.
that are going to be on the team next year, they're going to remember that. I just don't know if that starts off his tenure there. I don't like they won, but I don't know if that starts it off on a very good note. It also depends on how it came to be. Maybe they asked the
most
players.
the most awkward part of the whole thing, and I watched the game. The most awkward part of the whole thing was, first of all, throughout the game, at some points it felt like Jim Leonhard was in charge, and at other points it felt like Luke Fickell was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the game, they win. Wisconsin wins, and Jim Leonhard is over there on the sideline getting the Gatorade bath from his players, and Luke Fickell is over in the middle of the field shaking Mike Gundy's hand.
Yeah,
it was just it was weird. And so you think about all this, and you look at the Wisconsin coaching picture as a whole. Is really sort of what I wanted to touch on with the lens of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
He just hired Ray Longo, or Phil Longo. Sorry, Ray Longo is a coach in MMA. Got it mixed up. He hired Phil Longo, who was the offensive coordinator for North Carolina. He's an air raid guy.
Oh,
he's an air raid guy. He's like, let's bring in an air raid guy to Wisconsin. And then he's getting Tanner Mordecai, who's the former quarterback from SMU. He's a good quarterback. He has like a 74 touchdowns to 22 interception ratio.
Yeah.
So he's saying, let's run the air raid up in Wisconsin. Meanwhile, he has about a 49 ranked recruiting class. I mean, I could look it up to get the specifics, but last I checked, it was 65th, and they didn't improve it very much during signing day.
I mean,
so
it
I'm looking at this
doesn't
whole
matter that
situation. I'm just looking at this whole situation, and I just want to say this. It just reeks of square peg, round hole, like the situation we were in for years. It just reeks of that, basically. And I'm just like, damn it, Wisconsin's going to be successful. You know what I mean? Like, damn it, they're going to do all this.
Because,
and then they're going to win
if
the
we
Big
did,
Ten.
because if we did the same thing, it would be, a complete opposite story of that.
Right.
But I mean, and being Nebraska fans, we know that like some coaches, they're really good coaches and have really good success at other places, and then come here and can't win.
58.
58. They're 58.
That's what I'm saying. Like they don't have they won't have the horses in the stable to run that offense.
Yeah,
that's my point.
Because they've been a ground and pound team for ever.
Just a very awkward situation overall. It felt like an awkward fit from the beginning. We'll see if it ends up being an awkward fit. And you and I ranted and raved about Luke Fickell and wanted him at Nebraska, but looking at how he's going about this, I'll just say this, and maybe this won't age well, I am glad that Luke Fickell didn't get hired at Nebraska. Let me just put it that way. I don't know what he'll do at Wisconsin. I'm glad we got the guy we got. At this point, looking at
I'll make
sure
I clip that for our year under next year when they win the national championship.
Mark,
No. But all right, let's touch on one more game that was crazy and I did watch. The Kansas-Arkansas game.
Yes.
Absolutely bonkers. Lance Leipold's crew, honestly, Arkansas is not like a really, really good SEC team, but Kansas took an SEC team to double overtime.
Yeah. And you know what? I just want to show this because it gives context to the game.
Yeah.
The best executed, the most perfectly executed at the very least, extra point maybe I've ever seen. It's just so perfect. It's picture perfect.
Oh, that's perfection.
And you see right here, right in the little gap, Arkansas is going to block. They're going to block guys. And
all right. I knew what you were about to play. You said extra point. Just so you know.
I did. Oh, my bad.
Yeah,
Onside kick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Onside kick. But yes, it was a beautifully executed onside kick.
Yeah.
Got that thing to awkwardly bounce right behind the front line, which is exactly what you aim for. It was awesome. It was an awesome game. It really was.
So what do you think they look like next year? Kansas.
Kansas?
Is it an aberration, or do you think they build on it? Because who knows?
I still have confidence in Leipold. Okay. The biggest stain on his resume at Kansas at this point is the way the defense played in certain moments of the season and the way they crumbled in other moments of the season. I mean, it looked like they were going to get blown out the other night, and it was largely because the defense just couldn't stop Arkansas. They could not stop them.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I still have confidence in Leipold. He's in the Big 12. I think he can adjust and figure the defensive side out, at least good enough to survive in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And he is an offensive mastermind. He is. So I think they will build on it. I do. Leipold's a hell of a coach. I to this day, I'll never know if he would have been a fit at Nebraska, but he is a hell of a coach. I maintain that. So
I mean,
I think
so here's what I think about it. I think he's a hell of a coach too. But the Big 12 is going through some changes next year, and you have to remember that they're adding Houston, Cincinnati, and Memphis, right?
Yes.
Oh, and UCF.
Yes.
Is it UCF? Yeah. So it's those four.
Houston,
right?
Cincinnati. No, not Memphis. Houston,
not Memphis. So
Cincinnati,
it's just
BYU.
BYU. Okay.
Yeah, Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, and UCF.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That's I remember. There's four, and one of them was blue. That's probably
because I remember being like, "Whoa, Memphis got shafted," because they were like, basically, these last 20 years, these last 20 years,
they had a good team.
Well, these last 20 years, from a Houston fan perspective, it really has sort of felt like, almost in all sports except for maybe baseball, that Memphis is Houston's rival. I mean, really, in a lot of sports. I mean, it's like every other year there's a huge basketball game that's Memphis-Houston, or a huge football game that's Memphis-Houston.
Yeah, because they have a solid basketball team too, almost every year.
Well, and they're in a solid recruiting. Like Memphis is in a solid fertile recruiting ground. But they're a little bit of a trailer park.
Yeah. Anyways, to my point, the landscape of the Big 12 is changing next year. And I don't know if Kansas can compete anymore with all of those other teams that I just don't know. And I think Leipold's a good coach, but you have a hard time recruiting and getting transfers and getting all that to keep building up to have, who knows, they could be a 6-6 team every year, a fringe team every year. And you know what? Kansas football fans would probably be happy with that. They would. But I don't know. It might just be an aberration. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, let me pick the next topic, because something broke on Twitter a couple of hours ago that was hilarious to me. Probably Husker fans in general. Mr. Steve Sarkisian is back at it with his angry ways, and he just blew a fuse. And I watched the game last night. I didn't see it, but then I checked Twitter. And I was like, well, damn, he blew a fuse. So let's go ahead and watch this.
New to me. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's why we needed to talk about it. That's what I was saying. Like,
goodness. So I'm just guessing that's before that.
Go ahead and describe it to him.
I'm guessing that was before the game when they were waiting to run out onto the field.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, a member of the media is like having them hold back before they're ready.
It was bowl staff.
It was it was somebody that was supposed to be there.
Bowl staff. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like Sarkisian was like kind of walking a little bit, and then he kind of like went forward just the teeny tiniest bit, and the guy just gently put his hand like probably like right where his heart is whenever you're saying the Pledge of Allegiance, lightly,
Yeah.
didn't poke him, didn't push him.
No,
and
not at
and
all.
Sark went off on this guy. Don't you effing touch me like that is what I read.
Yes. Yeah,
So.
it's a little bit hard to make out exactly what he says, but yeah, there was a lot of colorful language in there. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I just saw that and was like, well, damn, we at least need to acknowledge this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. They're going to the SEC in a couple years, man. I don't know. They're like for a while there, for the first quarter of the season, I really felt like Sark was their guy. I was like, okay, they found their coach. Okay, they found their coach. It's Sark.
Yeah.
But looking at stuff like this, it just reminds me of Pelini. It just reminds me of like an over emotional. Like you look at the best coaches of all time, like in the modern era, very even keel guys for the most part. Nick Saban will go wild, but like he wouldn't go wild on someone that didn't deserve it like that. He just wouldn't.
He doesn't go wild on like somebody that's trying to do the job that way.
No.
He's even when he gets irritated with media members, he doesn't like scream at them. He'll like say something sarcastic.
Yeah.
He won't do stuff like that. He'll go off on his players, but
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, get your effing hands off me, all right? All right. So we are sitting here on the eve of New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to remind everybody to go ahead and subscribe and like, and to follow us on Twitter at CS Corner and on Instagram. But we are sitting here on the eve of New Year's Eve, which on New Year's Eve is the day of the college football playoff. So here we are, 24 hours before the college football playoff. At 4 o'clock, we have Michigan and TCU. And at 8 o'clock, we have Ohio State versus Georgia. So I've watched these teams, all of these teams actually, periodically throughout the year. And I think these matchups are really interesting matchups this year, actually. So I wanted to go ahead and just we don't have to give a full breakdown or anything like that, but I just wanted to go ahead and let's do a breakdown in the form of a prediction. So
yeah,
go ahead and let's do Michigan TCU first.
Okay. So you get to do the other one first. So I think in terms of Michigan and TCU, I think that TCU has a really good offense. I really do. And a lot of Big 12 teams, they remind me of Baker Mayfield's Oklahoma team a lot. They have a really good quarterback, makes a lot of really great plays. They're really explosive at times, and they have a serviceable defense. I don't think that can work necessarily as well as it has the rest of this season against this Michigan squad, especially up front. Those guys are massive and they're very, very athletic. So if TCU can get their offense rolling and, keep up with what their defense, I don't know if they can keep up. But if they can keep up, then it will be close. But otherwise, I think it's a lot like looking at like an Alabama playing one of those Oklahoma teams. It's close for a little bit. They can like go for blow, and then they just get tired and it'll run away. So
like
that's
Michigan
how
did to every other team this season.
Yep.
Yeah.
No. So I think it's going to look a lot like that. And I was listening to this today when I was watching one of the other games, and they were talking about Michigan actually, and it was something that I didn't think about. They had that monkey on their shoulder about beating Ohio State, so they were trying to build teams to beat Ohio State, and they did it last year. So they like went on the mountaintop, and that was their mountaintop, and then they went into the CFP and got embarrassed and everything. And they were like, but now that they've like beaten Ohio State and they've beaten Ohio State twice, they no longer have that as their goal. So now they're playing for that other thing. And I think they were playing for just to beat Ohio State before. And I was like, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. So we'll see. And I do think their team's better. They have a better quarterback. So we'll see.
So what do you give the score? Give me a score.
Let's see that can. I'm going to go with 35-17.
35-17. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 48-24, and Michigan pulls away mid to late third quarter. Okay, Ohio State versus Georgia, to me is the more potentially interesting matchup, but also could end up in a blowout. Like because of all of the teams in the playoff, if you're Georgia, you look at all four teams in the playoff, and you're like, well, damn, the only team that is built to potentially give us a little bit of trouble is Ohio State, and that is because when Georgia has struggled at all throughout the season, even a little bit, it's been versus teams that can pass. And one thing that Ohio State can do is they can sling the rock, especially after they've established the run a little bit. They've always needed to do that all year, but they can sling the rock. And Marvin Harrison is a freak, and C.J. Stroud throws balls into tiny little windows, and it could be interesting. Is all I'm saying. And Georgia's offense basically operates like the peak Patriots if they had two Gronks. You know what I mean? Like basically, like they have just two freak of nature tight ends. That's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Ohio State. So my prediction for the score of the game, I think Georgia's going to win, and I think they're going to win handily. So I got Georgia winning it 45 to 28.
45-28.
Yeah.
So here's what I think about it. All right. Ohio State has just as much talent as Georgia does. They are the Big Ten version of like an SEC team in terms of all the talent they have. They have so many people behind, next man up. I think as long as they don't come out flat, then they have a real shot at winning the game, a real shot. Because I know Georgia's really good, but they might be looking past a one-loss Ohio State team that got embarrassed to Michigan.
Could be.
And some SEC teams have those kind of like blinders on. They just expect to be in the championship sometimes. Like there's been a couple Alabama teams that played really, really flat in the semifinals. But they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we need to play now. And then they just ran away with it. I don't think Georgia will have that ability to do that on an Ohio State team. So if they do that and Ohio State comes to play, they have the guys to compete with them. That being said, I think it's a one-score game. I don't think it's a blowout if those factors are how I think they're going to be, especially with Ohio State getting that new life, right? So I think it's going to be 42-38.
42-38 Ohio State. We'll see, man. It's going to be a fun day of football. We got K-State versus Alabama in the morning, and then we got those two games in the afternoon and evening. So right as the K-State game ends, you're looking forward to the Michigan State the Michigan versus TCU game.
Yep.
So it'll be fun. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun day of football. So
and then,
here we are at the end of the year, a quite horrible year, as we'll say, a quite horrible year. It's been a lot of anticipation followed by a lot of disappointment. And so I was going to have us maybe talk about something broadly, a favorite or a superlative or something throughout the year. But then I was like, I'd rather just talk about Husker football as a whole. So I want to ask you this question. What is your favorite Husker win of all time? Now, you can go ahead and think about this while I go, because I had two games in mind. But my one that I'm going to go with is an off the wall pick, sort of, because the game didn't really have much stakes in the broad scheme of things. But I can't remember reacting to a moment quite like I reacted to this moment and in this game. So my pick for my favorite Husker win of all time is 2013 Northwestern.
Kellogg gets a shotgun snap. Final play of the game. Ron waiting for the wideouts to get downfield. Launches the throw down toward the goal line. Going up. Ball tipped in the air. Caught. Touchdown. Jordan Westerkamp. Nebraska wins the game on the final play of the contest. Oh, baby.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. What a scene in Lincoln, baby. Woo!
That's a good one. But I mean, yeah, that's a good. I would say that's a really, really good moment, because if I watched that game this offseason, and it was very, very, very frustrating to actually watch, because Nebraska was in control a lot of the game. They gave Northwestern all the opportunities to just beat them. And then it just came down to a Hail Mary. It was just one of those games that, like, why are they in this game? Why are they in this game?
I remember it was literally, I just remember being like, at the end of the game, like, because my whole thought process going in the Big Ten was like, wow, we're going to beat these teams. You know, Northwestern was one of those teams I definitely thought that about. And by the end of that game, I was like, I can't believe we're about to lose to this damn team again. Like, are you kidding me? And we're starting to develop a streak at that point. Because I believe at that point it was 1-1. Anyway, so I was just so hopeless. And Ron Kellogg was our quarterback, which all respect to him, but it was a dire situation. We'll just put it that way.
Kellogg wasn't our quarterback that game. They put him in.
That's right.
Later on in the game, because he could throw the ball further than Armstrong.
Yeah.
And we turned the ball over in the red zone a couple of times that game too.
Yes.
And it's not like.
But I remember running up and down the street screaming. I mean, it was great. That was a great one.
Winning on a Hail Mary is very memorable. I think in terms of my favorite Husker win of all time, there's a couple in there. The comeback win against Ohio State, when Levante David stripped him, and that changed the entire game. That's a really good one. And that was against Luke Fickell. But I think my favorite Husker win of all time, you were too young. You just were to remember this season, but I remember some glimpses and some games, because that was like this was the first college football season that I was really, really able to understand college football and understand what it was all about. And it was the 2001 game against 2001 against Oklahoma. Eric Crouch, the play, the one we have in our intro. There's a reason it's in the intro. It's buried in my mind. I had a poster of the play in my room. And it was just one of those moments that I remember, because I didn't even I wasn't even watching it with Dad, because Dad was there. We had season tickets that year. I saw a lot of those games live. And it was just absolutely amazing. It was number 1 versus number 2. Just going into the game thinking we were going to lose, and just having that play etched in my mind like that.
Here we go.
Is what I like. Yeah, there you go.
First down and 10 to go. Here's a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out there. 40. It is Eric Crouch. 15, 10, 5 touchdown.
The quarterback with the breakaway speed. Too,
I know. Yeah, no, and it was crazy. And he went on to win the Heisman. Went on to win Heisman that year. Could have. But yeah.
That's a great one. And I just want to give an honorable mention that I think both you and I would agree that this game just needs to be mentioned. And it's 2008 Colorado.
Yeah.
This was the other one that I was grappling with, because I just remember watching it in our basement in Pennsylvania with your friend Tim was over. And I mean, I believe it was that Bo Pelini, like a year before, had a big hand in LSU's special teams, and they had done that that throw behind the holder fake field goal, and it worked out for him at LSU. Well, he tried it against Colorado going into halftime, and he tried it against Colorado in 2008 going into halftime. The holder gets the ball, throws it behind his head, and throws a pick six.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple of those types of moments in this game that were just really stupid plays that Colorado, if you looked at both of these teams, they should not have really even been in this game with us. And Alex Henry's 57-yard field goal, which is, of course, amazing, but it's not. I mean, I will admit it. I rewatch it all the time. I rewatch the highlight all the time, but it's not as rewatchable as a highlight as something that happened right after, which was the greatest college football defensive lineman of all time, Ndamukong Suh, had his way with the coach's son.
65 seconds left. Ball is knocked down, and it's intercepted by Suh. Suh at the 15, at the 10, at the 5, and he will score.
And that sealed the deal.
Crazy.
And that sealed the deal. And we were elated. That was such a fun win.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've had some fun ones, as you can obviously tell. Not very recently. But we've had some fun ones, man. So yeah, here's to being a Husker for another year, man.
Yeah. And in that same vein,
yeah, go ahead.
You know, this we've been doing this podcast for over a year now. But this was our first off season to really be able to cover. So we had predictions like everybody else going into the season, and some of them really didn't age well, and some of them did. I couldn't find any that really aged all that well. So most of these, I have some clips here that we get to listen to and just take in. There's bad takes from both of us. I will say that it was
good.
It was
At least
very
you're balanced.
even. It was very even. But no, I think it should be fun to go back and listen to these. And I'll give context to each one before we play it. So this first one was right before the Northwestern game. We were giving our game by game season totals. And so this was after yeah, I know you're laughing because you remember what you did. So this was right before the Northwestern game when we were giving our season totals. But here, I'll play this now. I too have us beating Iowa this year for a total of our season 8-4, and you have us going 10-2.
I do.
So
overall, season outlook: 10-2, 8-4. 10-2. Maybe we get to the conference championship game, depending on how things shake out. But most likely, 2 West Division losses probably keep us out. We'll see how that works out. However, at 10-2, we have good prospects for momentum and a great bowl game. So that's kind of what I put.
Yeah,
that would be a great year. That'd be an insane year if what I say is happening is going to happen.
Yeah, and at 8-4, the games that we ended up winning. Kind of how I mentioned before, we're beating some of the teams that have been thorns in our side for the past couple of years. Right. And that is enough to carry over momentum in recruiting, kind of satiate the fans, because honestly, 8-4, fans would be happy with that at this point. So Scott and the new coaching staff get another year under their belt. And I think next year, after this season, 8-4, no. Yeah, I know.
Sorry,
I know.
Sorry.
I know what you're laughing at, but I think getting another year with the offense, especially under its belt with those coaches that they have there, then it's really gonna go up to the next level. Yeah. So those were our predictions at the beginning of the year. I mean, 10-2 was really, really optimistic. But 8-4, with all the stuff we said, neither of them were good. Mine was completely reversed. You're muted there, bud. Mine was completely, completely terrible. And there was stuff that there was stuff that I really wanted I wanted to say, and I didn't. I can't believe how stupid we were. Like, we really thought it was going to work. We really, really thought it was going to work.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but it just didn't. It just didn't. The one thing I will say is, like, beating some of the teams that have been a thorn in our side. We did beat Iowa. So we were both right about that. We beat Iowa, and I'll hang my hat on that.
Yes.
This next one is worse. So prepare yourself. Okay. It's not as long, but it's worse. This was right after the Northwestern loss. Okay. You say things in the heat of the moment that you just don't mean. But it certainly did not age well.
Look, we say this every time we lose an opener to a team that seemed inferior. But I think that Northwestern team is better this year than they were last year. I'll just say it that way.
I 100% agree. I do. I agree. I don't think they are a 3-9 team. I do think they at least go bowling this year.
Maybe. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, so they weren't a 3-9 team. I was right about that. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that was a take. That was definitely a take. But
that's a good one.
Yeah. Because the entire season, every single time they lost, and when I was waiting for them to win another game, I remember that conversation. So I was like, okay, I have to find that one.
If there's one thing that's for sure, it's that Northwestern's definitely better this year than they were.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So, yeah. And so this next one, it's a off-season take. You were talking about basically Omar Manning and how Mickey was talking in the press conference and was talking about Oliver Martin all the time. And I was like, yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, like Omar Manning's the guy. So that's where this conversation started from. So here you go.
He's not really talked about all that much because X, Y, Z. I don't know. Maybe he's a quiet guy. Maybe he's not like the leader. Oliver Martin seems like a very even if I'm not going to be the guy, I'm going to help everybody be the guy. And coaches love talking about that type of player.
Right. I just wanted to get this on record that I noticed it. Because if this season develops and all of a sudden Oliver Martin is our best receiver in our ace and Omar is nowhere to be seen, if I would have told, April of 2022 Blake that, he would have said, hell no, that's not Oliver Martin going to be more prominent than Omar Manning on the team. Heck no. That's what you would have said. I just want to get it on record that there's
100%.
signs at this point.
100%.
There's signs.
100%.
Yeah, you were right. Nowhere to be seen. But Oliver Martin also wasn't the answer, and he played like he has the rest of the time.
Well, 100, but he was definitely. I mean,
more.
What I explicitly said was that he was going to be more prominent than Omar Manning.
Yeah,
and he was definitely more prominent than Omar Manning. He had a couple of key moments actually throughout the year for us.
Yeah,
not a lot. Trey was obviously the guy, and Marcus was a not so close, but second.
Yeah.
And then probably you had Alante and Oliver around the same light.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver caught a couple more deep balls than Alante from what I remember. He was targeted on that deep fade route quite a few times throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's solid take by me.
Yeah. So this was a take. We were talking about what position group are you most worried about going into the season? Yeah, so here we go.
Scared about, which if you remember, we talked about it maybe 2 or 3 months ago. It was defensive line, and now that's not a problem. But
most likely, but yeah, we got production there.
On paper, it's not a problem.
Yeah,
so much production.
Yeah, Yeah. So
yeah. Meanwhile, flash forward to 3 months later, and I'm losing my voice, screaming my butt off about Ty Robinson not being in the right gap against Oklahoma.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you didn't like that take, you're really gonna not like this one. So this is a little bit longer. So I think I have the actual question posed, but if it's not, it's who do you think has the most chance of being first team All Big Ten? So here we go.
One guy on the team who you think could make first team Big Ten.
Oh.
Okay, so I'll go first. I think first team Big Ten. Should I go out on a limb? First team Big Ten. That's
quarterbacks.
No, I don't think so.
Big Ten.
I'll go out on a limb. I have two possible picks, and they're both transfers. Okay, but I'm just going to pick one.
I know one. Go ahead.
O'Shawn Mathis.
Yep, I knew it.
O'Shawn Mathis. That's who I'm picking at edge.
I was sitting here like, pick Trey.
Yeah. No. So I didn't go in because there was no real good clip of who I picked. I did pick Trey Palmer, but I chose him as a returner. So I didn't choose him as a receiver. So there's a little asterisk, but I did pick Trey.
That makes I see your thought process though, because it would have been easier for Trey to make first team theoretically through the returning aspect of it.
Yeah, that was my thought process.
Did he make first team?
No, I think he was
second team.
I think he was second.
Second
Yeah.
honorable mention. It was something. He got something.
Yeah.
I was hoping I would choose Garrett Nelson or Trey because they at least got something.
Yeah.
But nope. O'Shawn.
O'Shawn. I mean, it's not like he played terrible.
No.
But,
he was pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's pretty good. Yeah, he wasn't bad.
No.
Let me just put it this way: I'm more excited about the potential of some of the dudes that have been brought in than I am about the potential of some of these guys that left NFL career. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
I wish no ill will on those guys. I hope they're very successful. I'll be rooting for all of them. My point being is that I think we have more potential coming in the door than leaving. That's my point.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So here we go. This is I think this might be the last one. Let me just double check. Yeah, I think it's the last one. So here we go. I think the question is posed in this clip as well.
Either a receiver or a running back to get 1,000 yards, and name the specific player.
Ooh.
So I'm going to go first. I'll pick Anthony Grant to get 1,000 yards.
Pretty good.
So he chose Anthony Grant.
He got 980 something, didn't he?
Yeah, you were really, really close. Let's just put it that way. You were really close. You were a lot closer than me. Okay. Yeah, no, there we do have one more. So this is mine. So this will make you laugh. This is the last one that I could find just perusing just the preseason, because if we tried to find all of our bad takes throughout the entire year.
Oh, dude, we've gotten a lot better at this. I was listening to some of our old podcasts. They were terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll listen to these one day that way as well.
So listen to my take on a 1,000-yard receiver or running back.
Who was also working out in the slot? Was that
Ramir?
I'm gonna pick Ramir.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick.
Do you think he's gonna run for 1,000 yards, or do you think he's gonna receive?
I'm not gonna say
for 1,000 yards. You're saying all purpose. If he gets all purpose, I'll give that to you. I'll give that to you. Yeah. If he gets 1,000 yards, if Ramir gets 1,000 yards all purpose, I'll give it, because that's a good pick.
Yeah, I was hyping you up. That's a good pick.
That's a good pick.
Meanwhile, barely even plays.
Yeah, barely
Who could
plays.
have predicted that though?
Yeah,
you
couldn't have. At the time, it was a good pick, but did not age well. But
did not age well at all.
So I think that was fun. As we go into the new year, looking back on our preseason picks, we'll do some more research next time, so they don't age as poorly.
I'll tell you this much: I don't think they're going to be as emotional. I'm not siphoning Kool-Aid directly into my veins like I was last time. No. Right. I'm just not. I'm not going to let myself do it. But I'll be hype when there's reason to be hype. I will.
Yeah.
If we land Dylan Raiola, I'll still be hype about that. No doubt about that. So yeah, always remember to subscribe and like to the channel. Subscribe to the channel and give us a like to this video. We appreciate it. It helps us with traction. We appreciate interacting with people. We want to talk more about this. It's fun. And also follow us on Twitter at CHusker Corner and our Instagram page, Cornhusker Corner. So yeah, Cornhusker Corner.
Yeah, so that's going to be it for on Cornhusker Corner. Wishing everyone a happy new year. We'll see you in the new year. Always remember that there's no place like
this podcast.